Raw TV. I am not black. I am not black.
Peace and love. Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be using mainly sacred geometrical syncretism, a little etymology, and a bit of esoteric science to reveal the occult meaning behind most of the symbolism that's associated with Kanye West. First of all, let it be known that Kanye, just like Jay-Z, is a follower of Aleister Crowley and an Ordo Templi Orientis or OTO initiate. So he is well versed in the principles of Thelema, which OTO is founded upon, and we'll talk more about Thelema later. Since we now know that Jesus is a warlock who is versed in occult science and magic, secondly, we must realize that the main purpose of esoteric ritual and science is for a man to transcend his status to that of a god. This explains why Thelemites such as Jay-Z and Kanye go by the aliases Jehovah and Jesus. So the real question is, who is Kanye West really? The mysterious music sensation who many have accused of using his mother as a blood sacrifice to the occult, and his entrance into the music game was also synonymous with a near-death accident. All of the evidence leads one to believe that he is no doubt a controlled Illuminati puppet. So then the next question is, what is this student of Aleister Crowley doing at the throne of politics? To understand this, we must realize how occult societies use symbolism for communication, spell casting, and ceremonial ritual magic to exalt themselves to God-like statuses in society. But the first thing we must know is that the form of government that has ruled the world under their NWO or New World Order for the past 7,000 years originated in ancient Egypt during a time when the Greeks and the Egyptians had united as the first two world superpowers to form the NWO system of royal families that rule over us today. During this time, the Greco-Egyptian pharaohs who ruled over the people were worshipped as gods in the flesh. So what we're looking at now is an American eagle, and though it seems simple, many of us don't know that the American eagle is in fact the Egyptian bird god Horus, as you can clearly see. Sacred geometry reveals the truth in the images in front of you. The reason they are the same deity is because the government we're in today is that same Greco-Egyptian government. If you've seen my Her Story to His Story series, you know that the American flag also comes from Egypt. We can clearly see the Egyptian influence in his land, especially with symbols like the Egyptian pyramid right there on your American dollar or currency, staring you right in your face, showing you where this system of power and overtaxation originate from. The rulers of the old days were very egotistical and held tyrannical positions of power over their masses. Just like today, back then the ranks of government were corrupt and rotten to the core. They used symbolism to exalt themselves to God-like places of power above the people. They used divide and conquer methods, the monopolization of knowledge, and mind manipulation tactics that were taught by the best priests. Back in early days of church rule, the bishops and high priests were most of your high ranks of government because, again, the church was the government. So this means that your government was mainly composed of society's best wizards, sorcerers, and magicians who were all versed in the occult and taught how to control minds. This explains why the word government means to govern the mental. The early religious forms of government had esoteric schools that taught men the magic of government or governing mentals. Politics is just an ancient religion and law system that's still enforced by the gods of our society. Our system of government today is based upon the same mind control principles that was used in medieval times. This system of government was the same system of government that was being used when the church ruled over the masses and laid down the laws in society. Today, we still go to court and pay the judge fines to omit crimes. And that's the Roman Church's old form of paying indulgences to reduce sin or sentencing. We know that in this country, money talk. So if you got enough money, you can beat any case. So again, we pay fines to reduce sentencing. And this is again the Roman Church's old form of paying indulgences to reduce sin. So with everything that's been said concerning the history of our government system, we can see why the American eagle is just the Egyptian god Horus, and Horus is also an ancient form of Jesus. Horus, just like the American eagle, only reveals one eye because these are both sun gods in forms of Ra. Now that we know that government and esoteric sciences are one and the same, and that they are both founded on a dual language system and symbolism, we must also note that Horus is the principal deity of Thelema, and Kanye put Horus on the Yeezys and wore that massive Horus pendant during the show, particularly in the Power video, a video that is packed to the brim with esoteric imagery, and we will be revealing that later. The sudden emergence of Yeezus in politics has an occult meaning. In Thelema, the third aeon is the aeon of Horus and the aeon in which we currently reside. So if you follow me, you know that I've been telling you guys about this time ever since September of last year. Right now, we're leading up to a climax. Again, this is the end of a time cycle, and we're at the completion of a 7,000-year Mayan long count. We're in the time of the lucky sevens. We talked about Kaepernick and the three knees and the 777 symbolism in the previous videos. So they're speaking in esoteric language to us. That's how the occult work. The reason they do it is because their religion is no sins as long as there's permission. So one way they trick us and gain our permission without us knowing it is to tell us the truth right in our faces with the use of esoteric symbolism. The universe deals with symbols, so according to universal law, we know because we've been warned through the symbol. And the universe don't really recognize your ignorance of the symbol, meaning there's no mercy if you can't decode the symbolism. Their hands are still clean because they warn you. With that being said, since we are in what the occult calls the third aeon, which is the aeon of Horus, they are using esoteric symbolism to show us that with the rise of Yeezus or Horus in the media. I went over Trump and the 777 numerology in the previous videos. You see him paired with Horus or Yeezus. They are telling us that we're in the third aeon, which is a very important time. The media is a spell casting weapon that's been used to resurrect God since the dawn of government in medieval times. In fact, the word media and the word medieval are related for that reason. During that time, it was other forms of media or propaganda since they didn't have TVs. This is why your ancient artists seem to only paint religious art, because art was TV back then, and just like TV, it was controlled. Arts, music, and other forms of media was used then how the TV is used now. So now it's time to sink some symbolism before we proceed to the next section. We're going to need to be familiar with it for when I make references later in the video. So the first symbol we're looking at is the symbol of Ordo Templis Orientis. And as you can see, it has that all-seeing eye of Ra or Horus, because all secret societies worship the first pharaoh Atum /Narmer /Pan, aka the Baphomet, One of his forms in Greco-Egyptian times was Horus, the bird deity, and you can see him here as a white dove in the OTO symbol. A white dove because remember that Horus equals Jesus and Jesus equals the Holy Ghost or the white dove. This is the god Men, Serapis, and Allah. All the gods being worshipped on the earth today trace back to this first family, and the Bible starts the genealogy with Adam in Genesis. So the OTO symbol basically shows us the Holy Ghost or seeds of the first luminaries being born from Ra. We see those seeds in the form of a sacred bird falling to earth. These first families are the fallen angels that were to rule over the children of earth for the last descending time cycle. With that being said, it's no wonder that we can sync this all-seeing eye of Horus to the all-seeing eye on the American dollar. We can also sync the all-seeing eye of Horus to the Kabbalah, and we'll be doing just that later in this video. For now, let's sync some more symbols. The next symbol we're going to be syncing the all-seeing eye of Horus with is this image, which is an image of the Masonic conception of the cosmos. Of course, it's a flat earth cosmology, just like all the ancients. And I already went over why they hid this ancient truth in previous videos and a lot of those videos that I did on magnetism. So check those out. They'll answer the why. So we can see the all-seeing eye here in the Masonic cosmos, just like in the OTO symbol. We now should know why the bird is associated with the eye, because the eye is the eye of Horus, the Greco-Egyptian bird god. In this Masonic cosmos, we see the all-seeing eye of Horus, the bird god, in the same location as the ancient tree of life. This symbol represents the opening of a magnetic torus field, or the center of magnetism. According to ancient conceptions of the cosmos, Earth is a magnetic torus field that is being produced by a giant magnet / reciprocating hyperboloid at its center. And of course, we call this the North Pole. In the ancient conceptions of Earth, instead of representing this as an all-seeing eye, they represented it as a tree of life. They saw the pole more like an umbilical cord that connected the child, Earth, with her cosmic mother to be fed the perpetual energy that stirs the ether. The word umbilical is related to the word umbra or umbro because the tree of life shapes like an umbrella or a lotus flower. This is related to Horus because when the patriarchs rose to power with the establishment of the NWO, the symbolism changed, and when their sacred bird god Horus was the prevalent deity, Horus was placed on top of the sacred tree. So this next image is an ancient Hebrew conception of the cosmos, which shows us the vault of heaven or the crack in the firmament. And what we want to pay attention to is that it shapes like a bird with its wings spread wide. And this ties back into Horus, the Greco-Egyptian sacred bird. This sacred vault or vault of heaven again represents the center of a torus or Horus field. And this next image is an ancient Norse conception of the earth, which shows the same thing. But instead of a sacred bird, we have the tree of life, which is also the Egyptian lotus representing the sky vault. So it's kind of easy to remember the symbolism in relation to Horus and all of the ancient sacred birds. Just remember this: birds live in trees. So just stay with me, people. All of this syncing will lead up to more of why the North Pole was symbolized by these symbols, and how personification of these symbols can be used to gain power. First, let's do just a bit more symbol syncing. So this image is a Mayan cosmos, and like I said before, we can see their sacred bird nesting on top of their tree of life. So of course, the concept of sacred birds and the tree of life predate Greco-Egyptian times and Horus. Now this collage will help us tie all of it together. Now, before we get into it, earlier I told you that the purpose of esoteric science is to morph men into God-like figures in society, and symbolism is one of the key tools used in the occult to make this happen. Symbolism speaks to the subconscious, and this is where occultists work their magic in the magi or imagination. People like Kanye West and other artists who got enough money join elite societies because these lodges can be beneficial to certain people in certain fields of society to learn certain tools that will boost them to astronomical levels of success. In other words, these societies are schools of magic where rich people go to become witches and learn tools of mind control that are only accessible to the elite, while poor people are taught to go to college only to get a worthless degree in a society where relevant employment is inadequate and still got to pay back expensive student loans. Rich people send their kids to esoteric schools unknown to our kids, and they kids learn mind control magic to rule over our kids and hold God-like positions in society over your kids. No matter if your kid got a 10-year degree, the rich people spoiled brats still run the corporations. So why am I bringing this up? Because we must ask the question, what is being taught in these elite mystery schools? Well, in order for one to be a true God, one must be versed in all laws of magic, numerology, etymology, sacred geometry, and gematria are some of the core tools, but symbolism is the most important tool. The main way occultists use symbolism to their advantage is by the art of personification. When personification is used, the person is often portrayed as a force of nature. And what other force of nature for one to personify themselves as than the greatest force of nature, which is magnetism? This is exactly what occultists like Jesus are doing. When personification is used by dark magicians, it is used to manipulate the subconscious to worship the person. In order for one to rise to godhood, one must learn the secrets of attraction, which can be revealed in uncovering nature's mysteries of magnetism, since attraction is magnetism. Since magnetic energy is the greatest form of energy in nature, for many years we have personified magnetism by blending gods with symbols associated with magnetism. To understand this, let's go ahead and get into the collage. We're going to start with the image on the far right, which again is the symbol of Kanye's brotherhood, OTO. And what the symbol is showing us is number one, the eye of Horus, which is the black stone / tree of life at the center of the earth. This is the magnet that's creating the torus field. We can see the torus field bursting out around the magnet in light and dark rays, symbolizing the red and blue shift sides of the torus field or sun and moon. The sun is red shift, which is warm red light. And this is drive force, repel, electric or discharging energy represented by the yellow rays. And the moon is blue shift, which is cold blue light. And it is drain force or attractive or magnetic absorptive energy represented by the blue rays. Both are the yin and yang or the dual pair that is connected to the pole, which is the grounding point. This trio or trinity of life / tree of life is the source of power that is creating this very moment. So the sun and moon is positive and negative, while the pole is neutral or news trail, the trail that leads to new at the center, which is the trunk of the tree. This is why in this OTO symbol, it's symbolized as a triangle, which is also a tree or a tree, TRI. The branches of the tree are sun and moon, seen as the rays emanating from the eye of Ra. And we know that this is a magnet or magnest. The word net and nest are the same. A web is a net or a nest as well. And you can see the connection that these words have in relation to magnetism, because a magnet attracts and repels, which is nothing but give and receive. And that's what the internet does. It sends and receives information. So the words like web, net, and nest all are related to each other. So the dual light rays emanating from the eye and the OTO symbol forms a ring around the eye, and that ring is a donut-shaped torus field, and the all-seeing eye is the hole at the center of the donut, or energy field. The picture to the right of the crown of thorns is a magnetic energy field, and the hole in the middle of it is the all-seeing eye. This is why the OTO symbol has the eye in the middle of the rays with the bird, because the sacred bird who sits upon their nest is Horus. Horus sits above their nest because, again, he is the god of their aeon, so he is their sacred bird, and their sacred tree is the Kabbalah tree of life. We can see the name Allah in the word Kabbalah because Allah is another form of this blended deity. We also see the word cabal in the word Kabbalah because people who practice Kabbalah also do it in little secret cabals. And just a side note, the word secret is the root word of secretary. And we have secretaries of state and a government that's controlled by secret societies or secret societies. They rule by monopolizing the knowledge. Again, later we'll get deeper into the Kabbalah symbolism and sink more of it to Jesus. We see that this magnetic torus or Horus field shapes like a bird nest mainly because this is the pattern by which nature organizes her energy. This is the spiral of life, and this is why Jesus bled on the cross. We'll sync this with Jesus bleeding on the cross later. What I was saying about the bird nest is that birds naturally follow this pattern when they build because this is nature's path of least resistance, and it serves as the foundation of her construction process. By studying this science, we unlock the secrets of creation and manifestation. So birds build their nests using this same pattern. If you got dogs, if you give them a sleeping blanket on the floor, you'll see that they'll get in the middle of it and they'll walk around in circles until they form it into a nest around them. We also see schools of fish in the water use this same pattern to become one big force against their prey. What we're seeing is basically a nest of fishes or fish nest, and it looks the same as a bird nest. The word net and nest are related, and a bird nest shapes like a magnet. So if the animals know these secrets of nature, what happened to us humans? The secrets of magnetism were once innate to all creatures before the rise of world government. So like I was saying in the Her Story series, all of the world's gods can be traced back to Narmer and the first families. Back in the day, the first families were the government in a religious style system just like today. Today's world pantheon of gods represent a genealogy of families that can be traced all the way back to the world's first ruler, Narmer, which is the Sumerians' Atum. His genealogy begins with the biblical Adam in Genesis and can be traced all the way up to Donald Trump and Kanye West of today. So these gods were blended with symbols of magnetism to invoke attraction. We can see that in the top left corner, we have a Caesar's wreath because the Caesars were deified. So the wreath on the Caesar's head is symbolic to the crown of thorns on Jesus' head. It's just a magnetic Taurus or Horus field. So we put wreaths on our door, and the Christ mass tree symbolized the dark mountain. We do this on the 25th, which equals 7, which syncs to trumpet numerology and gematria. Again, Jesus and trumpet in these special times reveals how in sync our occult-based government system is with the ancient esoteric religious schools that use these same symbols and scripts or scriptures in their schools of learning. This shows the connection that our government has with its medieval roots and how the great Gregorian calendar deception is only valid during descending time cycles. At the beginning of ascending time cycles, there are alignments in the heavens that sync our world with worlds beyond ours. When this happens, we receive the collective download of knowledge from the past and future right here in our present reality, because some of the other worlds are already enlightened planes that never left the golden age. And because of that, we are able to regain or remember that information now. At the same time, during these alignments, we receive evil knowledge of more forms of control from lower worlds. So we see artificial intelligence, MK Ultra, geoengineering, and more advanced types of control emerging, as well as Tesla technology and the rise of people getting into magnetism and thinking green. So the two types of energies are let in during ascending time cycles during these alignments. It's just that during ascending time, the rise of the natural ways come as a response to the 7,000-year descending time cycle of control. So during this time cycle, we seeing these concepts reemerge with the fall of world government systems, because we're going back to natural time, which is synced back to the natural crop production and natural flow of the earth. So a lot of dams may be destroyed and more cities may flood because nature returning to undo man's control grid and eradicate all of the greed-driven strongholds that was constructed to build his grid of power. They serve as the barriers around the natural resources given freely by nature. They serve as a system of mental, physical, and spiritual obstructions in between us and those things that nature gives us freely to mentally, physically, and spiritually sustain us. So we know that this country was built by Freemasons, and the image in the bottom left corner again is the Masonic cosmos. The step pyramid is below the all-seeing eye, just like we see on the dollar. The Mayan cosmos shows the sacred bird on the tree of life. In our time, we symbolize the sacred bird as Jesus with his arms spread, because the cross is the tree of life, and we'll get deeper into that later. So Jesus on the cross is Horus on the nest, or God on the mountain, which is Mount Calvary. The mountain is located in the middle of a cosmic crossroad. So this is why Jesus is also personified as a rock or a stone. The stone on the cross is the dark magnetic stone at the center of the earth's Taurus or Horus field. So we see Kanye on top of the dark mountain, symbolizing Jesus or Horus on the tree of life. This is why the eye of Horus is always above the step pyramid. This is Horus on top of his nest, or Jesus on Calvary. This is all personification used to manipulate and control minds by using symbolism to communicate with our subconscious minds. So our Earth is simply a ring-shaped magnetic energy field or torus field, and the all-seeing eye represents the hyperboloid at its center, as I stated and went over in previous videos. So the all-seeing eye of Horus is like the hole in the middle of a donut-shaped torus field, and we'll be getting deeper into that symbolism later, syncing it with Jesus. For now, what we need to know is that the word Taurus is the word Horus, because Horus is a personification of the Taurus. The word was once spelled Thorus, like Taurus, which can also be pronounced Taurus. So the word was once Taurus, Thorus, and the Egyptians personified it as Horus. The name Horus is just the word Taurus without the T. We also see the name Thor at the beginning of the name Taurus because Thor was an earlier deity that personified the concept to early Greeks. Deities like Thor, Horus, Serapis, and absolutely all of the world's sun gods are different versions of the same deity and concepts. They all can be traced back to a single source, and that is the center of magnetism, as I will show later. So Kanye West on the cover of the Rolling Stone is very esoteric and symbolic. Yeezus and the Rolling Stone cover is just an esoteric retelling of Christ's resurrection. Also, the Rolling Stone and Jesus Christ is another symbol that represent the Vesica Pisces. The Rolling Stone, Christ, and the Vesica Pisces all trace their roots back to the God force of nature, which again is magnetism. This is why all of these symbols represent the Taurus field. Kanye West on the Rolling Stone is just more esoteric subconscious programming. Like I said, personification is one of the main tools used by the occultists. And of course, we see they name the cover Passion of Kanye like Passion of Christ. All of this is part of Kanye's initiation. They're rising him up to a higher God status. Again, by personifying him with symbols of magnetism, the elite are helping make Yeezus more attractive to the worldwide public. And by doing this, his image will reach entire new heights within society. In this image, we see Jesus surrounded by archangels. This image shows that Jesus is a representation of the all-seeing eye that sits above the step pyramid, which is symbolized by the archangels. The archangels represent the different ways the base of the pyramid can be divided up. For example, the angels of the four corners are 490-degree angels that make up the 360-degree base. And the 8 angels that surround Jesus in this image represent the 8 45-degree angles that can make up the 360-degree base as well. Each of these angels are personifications of angels or corners, and all of the base angles lead to the center peak, which is the highest angle represented by Christ or the all-seeing eye. So we can see that angels are personification of angles in sacred geometry. Another way to see this image is Captain Planet being composed of all of the Planeteers, and all of the Planeteers together form a 360-degree base, and each Planeteer represents an element of nature. Together, all of the elements lead back to Captain Planet, which is the God element, magnetism. This is why later in the video, when we view more collages, you will notice in a lot of ancient conceptions of Earth that it was conceived as a pie divided up with each slice being an element, and each slice points to the center toward the source of all elements. In this next image, we see a spider web, and I pulled this image to show you again how things in nature understand these simple secrets of magnetism. And this web shows exactly what the bird nest and fish school showed earlier, that this concept is innate in most creatures. This is the code of nature and shows what some call longitude and latitude, which are the natural magnetic ley lines that all things follow because these lines are the path of least resistance. Each horizontal line follow a path that lead from one of the foundational corners toward the center peak or point, just like a pyramid. Then we have the opposite of the horizontal line, which is the curve or circle. We see a series of concentric circles that intersect the horizontal line starting from the point of singularity going outward toward the corners or foundations. This is the same way a pyramid is built, with all of the bricks being stacked vertically and also horizontally, intersecting themselves in a staggered pattern that resembles that of a spider web. In sewing, this pattern is called warp and weft, and it can be seen in woven baskets, braids, and many other things in nature, because it is the simple code of construction that follows a path of the most least resistance to gain the strongest and most stable result. This is the foundation of all creation and can be understood by studying the magnetic nature of our reality. The symbol we're seeing now is called the unicursal hexagram, one of the important symbols in Thelema, equivalent of the ancient Egyptian Ankh or the Rosicrucian Rosy Cross. All of these occult symbols are just different ways of conceiving the cosmos. All roads lead back home, which is the sacred geometry of Earth. In this image, we see that the Earth plane is represented by an X at the center, leading out from the North Pole to the four corners, which connect to a triangle or arch that's pointed upward, symbolizing the firmament, and a triangle pointed downward, symbolizing Sheol or the underworld. The collage in front of you compares the Thelemic unicursal hex to ancient Sarah cosmology, so it's easy to see the relation. It is common occult practice to use the rule of as above, so below, because the most powerful symbols and sigils in existence are the endless sacred geometric expressions of the cosmos. For this reason, most occultists personify themselves with symbolism associated with the cosmos and magnetism to invoke attraction. This is the same way nature speaks to us, using only sacred geometry and symbol to attract or repel us. The sacred geometric construct of the cosmos is the most sacred symbol on earth, so it is no wonder why in the occult this is the most commonly used geometric outline in their symbols and insignia, as well as album covers, ceremonial ritual positioning, and much more. So as you can see, we've been comparing the unicursal hex to ancient cosmology, ancient Sarah cosmology to be specific. We also can compare this to the Dogon Kanunga and see that they're on the same page as well. This unicursal hex also can be synced to Mount Calvary, with the center diamond representing Jesus and the two bow ties on each side representing the two thieves. The center diamond is Jesus and also explains why Jesus left earth, went down to hell, up to heaven, and then came back to earth, because this pattern is how the symbol is woven together, starting from the center point, just like Jesus did on Calvary. The center point connects the heavens and hells to the earth, just like Jesus. He is the messenger in between worlds as we live our lives on the court or playing field. Jesus going to heaven and hell at Calvary symbolizes the center point, which represents the sky vault connection between heaven and the underworld. We could compare it to this image, which is a magnetic energy field, and we see the diametric inertia plane in the middle. That's the ground we walk on, and we see two circles above it. Those can be seen as sun and moon above our heads on their circuits around the pole. The two bottom circles as the two energy points projected to the deepest ends of the earth, coming from the sun and moon, crisscrossing each other, forming a hyperboloid or hourglass shape. The hourglass is the Horus glass, and the crisscross is the Christ cross. This is the double crossing. The sun and moon, the atmosphere, and the waters that make up the ocean is being stirred from the center, or steered from the center. The words stir and steer are related. The symbol of earth is a steering wheel, and in the occult, men place themselves at the center of the wheel to gain godlike statuses by placing themselves in the driver's seat or the seat of God. This is also why Jesus' head is on a cross and why many rappers have album covers with themselves on the cross. This is esoteric symbolism used to achieve godlike attention. So the center of the cross is the pole that stirs the ether, and everything exists within the ether. Ether is E in Thor. Thor is the Taurus or Taurus field. So when we say ether, we see this god called Thor or Horus or Horus once again, and he symbolizes the ether or the Taurus field. The next image is a South American pyramid built next to a water source, just like most of the ancient pyramids and modern pyramids are. This is because water is nature's first mirror, and by building a pyramid next to water, you complete the diamond by allowing its bottom half to be reflected upon the water surface. This brings more magnetic energy to the space. Water is spiritual, and it is also a transmitter of vibration, energy, and information. This shows respect for nature's rule of as above, so below in ancient architecture, and also reminds the ancestors of Earth's sacred geometry. This was also the ancients' way of connecting the spiritual place and microcosm with the ethereal realm and macrocosm. So we can compare this image to all of the images in the slide, and we see that they can be synced together perfectly. This image is just another conception of Sierra cosmology that shows this diamond-shaped style that was also prevalent by some ancient cultures. We know that the diamond shape is revered because of its relation to the sacred geometry of Earth. This is why the center of the Vesica Pisces is a diamond shape symbolizing Jesus, like we just explained earlier. This yoni or diamond shape is why occultists throw up the dynasty sign or yoni sign with their hands. The dynasty is the birth of government starting with Jesus or Atum. You can see him in this image coming forth out of the diamond or the yoni. He is the all-seeing eye because he is Ra. This diamond shape is also why many associate esoteric symbolism with reptilians. The reptilian eye is just the sacred geometry of the diamond, which was also personified by a great mother goddess who was a serpent. So again, Jesus is the all-seeing eye, and he is the equivalent of Horus or Ra, the all-seeing eye. So when we see them throwing up the diamond sign with the eye in the middle, it's because, of course, they are OTO members hiding this secret. You can see that the OTO symbol is clearly the diamond with the all-seeing eye of Jesus / Horus at the center, just like these OTO members show us with their hand signs. Jay-Z says that it means the rock, but could it be deeper than Rockefeller? Could it also symbolize the magnetic rock or dark mountain at the Earth's center? We'll expose this later. We also can compare this diamond-style sacred geometry with this image, which is a Dogon conception of the cosmos in the form of Amma's egg, and we know that Amma is their great mother. So this diamond or oval-shaped style is another conception that is prevalent among many ancestors and explains why some ancient cultures referred to our cosmos as a cosmic egg. An egg and a womb are the same thing, which is an incubator. Another place we find this ancient diamond-style cosmology is this image, which is an album cover from the group Earth, Wind, and Fire. They named themselves nature by basically naming themselves after the elements, and a lot of their artwork show you ancient cosmology. Like I said, in a lot of ancient cosmology, the four corners are also representations of the four elements being born from the center element or God element, which is magnetism. So in a lot of earth, wind, and fire artwork, they have themselves around a point of singularity because they are esoterically speaking to your subconscious, trying to give you back your true cosmology. So when we see all of the members surrounding the all-seeing eye, that's their way of saying exactly what the Dogon was saying, the four elements surrounding the dark tower or the dark stone. Because the group name is Earth, Wind, and Fire, when they surround the stone, they're actually speaking to you on a deeper level, showing you cosmology. So in this artwork from the album Fantasy, we see them giving us more ancient cosmology and as above, so below. Now we're going to take just a minute to look over some more images that'll continue to compare similar symbolism. So as we see from the slides, the unicursal hex can also be synced with the symbol of skull and bones. The skull and bones is also the poison symbol to desecrate and hide the truth behind spookism and negative stigmas. In this collage, we can see them all together with the Taurus field as well as the Kabbalah tree of life. Jesus being an OTO initiate means he's also versed in the Kabbalah as well, so we'll get into that later. In this collage, we can see a lot of the previous symbols compared to others. In the bottom right corner is a map from the Wizard of Oz. Emerald City is the dark mountain or Kaaba stone, black cube. We see the four corners of the earth and even the land of the pygmy as Munchkin country. We can compare this to the image in the bottom left corner, which is a Hindu conception of the cosmos. This conception shows the step pyramid with the four-corner base dividing the four lands and the all-seeing eye above the step pyramid in the form of Mount Meru hovering above it. At the center of each of these is the all-seeing eye, and each of these symbols are all different versions of the same universal concept. This is the secret of skull and bones and also reveals to us through sacred geometry why symbols of nature such as the four-leaf clover are considered lucky. The four-leaf clover is a microcosmic example of what the earth is, just like we see here with Mercator's map illustration. The dark tower is the stem or stalk that feeds the branches or four corners of the clover or cover. This explains why Jesus represents the vault of heaven in the Last Supper, and he feeds the disciples, which are paired up into four groups of three. And we will get real deep into this later, but first let's remember that personification is used often by occultists. Because of this, many men rising through the ranks of the occult and the social hierarchy use these simple magician's tools. Many gods throughout the aeon have personified themselves as this dark stone, and we can see parallels in gods like Jesus, who is also personified as a rock or the stone that the builders rejected. The symbol of the god Allah is also a dark stone in Mecca or a black cube, and we'll get into that when we go into the Kabbalah symbolism later in the video. But for now, just understand that this dark stone or this rock sits upon a cross or a cosmic boulevard. And this is why Jesus, also known as the rock, was on the cross. So in this next image, we see Jesus on top of the dark mountain, symbolizing Jesus on Calvary or Jesus on the cross. The center of the cross is the point of singularity or the dark mountain, and this is the throne of God. So we see Kanye as Jesus on top of the dark mountain. In order for energy to be created, there must be a sacrifice. In the case of politics, they are using Kanye or Yeezus as the sacrificial lamb to gain more power by sucking you into their mind control games. We see Yeezus constantly getting crucified in the media by all of his fellow colleagues, just like Jesus' disciples turned on him. We see Kanye emerging with an almost messianic dialogue that's stirring up a lot of emotions. We also see him paired with Trump, which is another uncensored speaker, and these two just happen to be the right combo that is likely to ignite the spark that will eventually lead the world into an apocalyptic conclusion. They got Kanye in the driver's seat right now. And another way you can look at that in symbolism is Yeezus on the steering wheel or the stirring wheel. Remember, he's stirring up the tension, and his green light is the Donald Trump or the trumpet that Yeezus is blowing, because Trump is the only president that won't censor a person like Kanye, because Trump, well, his name says it all. He's just as radical as Kanye. The name Donald Trumpet also translates to Dawn of the Trumpet, and remember, this time is also synonymous with the Feast of Trumpets. This next image is just an example of what I was touching on previously about architecture and how they hide esoteric science within construction concepts, just like the ancients did in the previous pic with the pyramid in South America. We see here in America, we have a representation of the Dark Mountain in Memphis, which was an Egyptian land of the gods. This is esoteric symbolism. We also see that, like I said previously, with the South American pyramid, it's built near water to show that cosmic concept of as above, so below, and to make the full diamond shape that's associated with our cosmos by reflecting the bottom half upon the water surface. Now what we're looking at is a collage that shows the black cube of God at Mecca, and it also shows you how the cross is related to the cube, because the cross is just the cube unfolded. A lot of people get into the cabal of Allah or the Kabbalah to become dark magicians and use the laws of attraction against others. The laws of attraction are directly related to magnetism. Remember that another word for celebrity or icon is a magnet, because people often crowd around them like Muslims crowd around the cube of God. They master the laws of attraction and use symbolism to make themselves individual centers of attention. The cube of God is also the Kabbalah or cube of Allah. Cube of Allah is the word Kubala or Kabbalah. The cross is the tree of life, and Jesus bleeding is the energy that's being released from the center of the earth from the cosmic cross. Jesus' blood saves the world because Jesus bleeding on the cross represents the magnetic energy or cosmic breath of the Most High that's constantly bleeding outward from the pole, giving birth to each moment by stirring up the ether from the driver's seat at the center of the earth. What we learn by studying the cube of Allah or the Kabbalah are the secrets of magnetism and attraction. A religious space like Mecca is very energetically charged and serves as a huge center of mind control that was created by ancient religious government systems that serve as the foundation of today's world governments. People have been magnetically attracted to this place for many decades, and what brings them here is the strong symbolism associated with the beliefs, the scripture, the vibration, and most of all, the symbolism, which at its core lead us right back to the sacred geometry of the cosmos. Again, by incorporating these cosmic patterns into symbols, the symbol can be translated into a sound, vibration, music style, dress code, and all of the cornerstones that build culture. Just like we see alphabets and associate these symbols with sounds, the same go for religious symbols, which also speak to the soul or subconscious. Ancient governments created new world centers during the birth of the New World Order, and these religious centers have attracted the souls of man since the beginning of this aeon. But our true center is the dark mountain at the center of the earth, where all compasses are pointing us to. The compasses are pointing us home to the true self. The ancients took trips to this sacred place as a form of initiation, just like religious crowds migrate to their false world centers today. These false centers have been leading us away from the source for decades and are the main perpetuators and number one cause of all world wars. And remember that war is the elite's number one cash cow and number one tool of divide and conquer and population control. So we got to see how it's all tied together. And basically what these puppet celebrity occultists like Kanye do is personify themselves as the Dark Tower to become their own world centers of attention and attraction, just like the cube of Allah. So they're just using Kabbalah science and the same esoteric symbolism of the ancient religious forms of government who use these sciences and symbols as tools of mind control. But like I said, the ancients once took trips to the real dark mountain at the center of the earth, and it was an important part of their spiritual practice, just like pilgrimages are today. The ancients said the true self is at the center, and I believe the occultists just been misleading us for decades by pointing us to false centers while they take off-map trips to the North Pole and reunite with the quote-unquote true self, as the ancients said. I believe that they actually take those pilgrimages when they reach a certain point in their initiation. And this is probably why we think people like Kanye are clones after they reach a certain point in their rites of passage. Maybe they take these top-ranking elites to the pole to reunite with the true self when they're raising them to full God status. Maybe this trip is why they are forever changed and act different, and why we think they're clones. Maybe they've just reunited with the true self, as the ancients say, and what we see is the result of the reflection or shell merged with the true self, so it's slightly different when you combine the polar opposites together. Maybe this is why they diagnose Yeezus with bipolarism, which could really be a code word for this merge. Bipolarism can be translated to mean using both poles. So maybe once again they're esoterically telling us the truth in the words combined with the symbols of Yeezus on the cross and on the dark mountain. Kanye West is age 38, which equals 11, and Trump's age in numerology equals 7. So the pair together equals 711. And like I said previously, Kanye West have been diagnosed with a form of bipolarism, and they really won't say exactly what it is, but his words were, "It's not a disorder, it's a superpower." So like I said, they're initiating Yeezus to a godlike status in our society. And it's possible that they took him to Calvary or to the Dark Mountain to elevate him to God status. Okay, so now that we see how the cross and the cube are related, we can sync this symbolism with the symbols of Scientology, which is also a branch of the occult. Scientology was founded by students of Aleister Crowley and is based upon many thelemic principles. We can see that its symbolism is related to the cross of Allah or divine cross. And what you're looking at is a cross, which is an open box, and there is light shining out of that box. So what we get is a cross with another cross intersecting it, because the first cross is the open cube or box, and the intersecting cross is the light emanating from the box. This is another way of symbolizing the triangle with the all-seeing eye inside and the light coming forth out of the triangle or box. The box can also symbolize the heart or gateway to the innermost self, where we unlock the mysteries of self and begin to know thyself. So this black cube or Pandora's box was also called the Philosopher's Stone, since it is one of the keys to self-discovery. So we may be looking at a newfound Kanye West who has risen to a godlike rank in the occult. Remember that the black cube is a gateway, and this is why Gateway's logo is a cube, and also why on this Earth, Wind, and Fire album cover, if you look into the black capstone, you will see that it is a portal or gateway. Once again, Earth, Wind, and Fire are speaking to us. So this is an image of Jesus on a dark mountain. He performed on top of this mountain in Montreal. Now, people, the moon is very powerful in occult science, and many believe that the moon is responsible for transporting souls. We know that the dark mountain is the stairway to heaven, so often it is associated with the moon matrix. We can see the Pac-Man symbolism in the dark mountain images because the bottom of the moon being blocked by the mountain's peak make it appear to be eating souls as they walk up the dark mountain or stairway to heaven. And it's crazy that Jesus performed on top of the dark mountain in Montreal because the name Montreal or Montreal translates to moon trail. The name Kanye also means canna in etymology, and canna means to can something or contain something. So the name Kanye West translates to contain the West. And I find that strange with all of this talk about building a wall around America. Something else that is a major eye-opener to this esoteric truth is that Kanye West's tour is called Yeezus Rap Tour. The name Yeezus Rap Tour translates to Jesus Rapture. In this image, we see Yeezus on a dark mountain in between a red light and a blue light, symbolizing the sun and moon going around a dark tower or North Pole. And this is a cover from a book and a movie called Holy Mountain. And you can see the female on top of the dark mountain, and the veil is being lifted from over her eyes because at the center is where self-awakening takes place. And this cover just shows you more personification being used esoterically and more black stone reverence that existed even before Kanye, because this is a very ancient secret that some of us are just recently becoming awakened to during this ascending time cycle of revelation. So the Kaaba stone or philosopher's stone is also associated with the pineal gland because it is the gateway to creation and manifestation. For this reason, it is associated with the sacred feminine and is called a sacred womb of manifestation because it embodies all of the constructive qualities of the self that allow us to give birth to new ideas and manifest things in our reality. So the ancient ripple effect concept that explains the origins of our cosmos can be seen here at Mecca, like we explained in previous videos. Like I said, it's the magnetic dark mountain at the center of the earth that's creating the ripple effect. This is the ancient truth, and this is basically what they're telling us in their own way when we're taught that a stone or a meteor from another world crashed into the ocean and seeded life on earth outward from the point of impact. The science they gave us was just a watered down version of the truth used to hide the real meanings, while at the same time keeping their hands clean by telling us the truth in an esoteric way. This ripple effect concept is literally the all-seeing eye being the point of impact and the four corners being the 360-degree concentric circles surrounding it. The four corners are 490-degree angles that equal a total 360 base. This ripple effect concept is so simple in nature that it is one of the key principles of most African tribal concepts, such as Ubuntu. This shows how this concept creates strength on all levels of reality and serves as the key to syncing the mind, body, and spirit together. Another way the Holy Mountain was portrayed in art was in an image called the Last Supper. We know that there are 4 continents surrounding the mountain, and all of them shaped like a triangle. Each triangle has 3 90-degree angles or 3 corners/points. So we basically have 4 groups of 3 points or 4 groups of 3 angles or 4 triangles, which gives us a total of 12 angles. This can be synced to the Last Supper because Jesus symbolized the dark mountain, and the 4 continents can be seen in the form of the disciples being 4 groups of 3. The disciples being 4 groups of 3 surrounding Jesus is the 4 lands, which are 4 groups of 3 corners surrounding the all-seeing eye of Jesus/Ra. So now what we're looking at is the video artwork from Kanye's Power video. What we're looking at is Jesus personifying himself as the tree of life, or personifying himself as the center of a magnetic energy field, which is truly the source of power, which is the reason he named the video Power, because once again, this is esoteric science, and once again, they are speaking to us. They're telling us the truth right in our face. The artwork is representative of a magnetic energy field, which is indeed true power. We see Jesus at the center of the Taurus field. This is why the halo or crown of thorns surround Jesus, because he is the magnet. The pillars surrounding Jesus is the energy field, and in the case of Jesus, Jesus is the magnet, and the crown of thorns upon his head is the magnetic energy field that is surrounding him. And another way of them symbolizing Jesus as the source of all energy is saying that he bleed from this crown of thorns to save everyone on earth. This is another way of saying that everyone feeds from the North Pole energy, and that the North Pole is what stirs the ether, creating time as we know it. So in Kanye's Power video, he personifies himself as the tree of life, also known as the seed of God. A lot of people are saying Kanye will be president in 2020. Is this what they are esoterically telling us? Is this what they are preparing us for? People, I hope you enjoyed this video. I just wanted to go over this symbolism because I see that this is a big topic, and I wanted to address it from a deeper perspective. So I don't want to make the video too long. I'm going to go ahead and close out. I hope every last one of you have a wonderful day or night, depending on what time you're watching this. If you want to help me make videos, consider signing up to my Patreon and pledging $5 a month. When you pledge, send me an email, and as a courtesy, I'll send you out a free crystal gift set. You can also check out all of our t-shirt stores, and you can check out all of the video referrals that I made in this video in the video description area of this video. Remember, new uploads every Thursday. Peace and much love.
All TV. I am not black. I am not black.